Nice to see you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I am thrilled to be here, standing next to a gentleman that has become a good friend and has been for a long period of time a guardian angel for the city of New Orleans, along with Councilmember Cynthia Hedge Morrell, who also goes back a very long way with Mr. Riggio. We also have Jeff Hebert, who's Executive Director of New Orleans Redevelopment Authority, Brian Lawler, who is a Director of Housing Policy and Community Development for the City of New Orleans, and also Kerry Shea, who is Executive Director of an entity called Project Home Again, which is an entity that Mr. Riggio started. As you know, Mr. Riggio is the founder and the owner of Barnes & Noble. Mr. Riggio sat in his living room watching the catastrophic events of August 29th occur and was moved to get up and to ask himself what he and his family and his friends could do to help a great American city stand back up again. Mr. Riggio has told his story a number of different times, but he has an undying love for working class, middle-income families as being the backbone of America, and he wanted to make sure that he did his part to help America rebuild herself through the people of New Orleans. And as many of you know by now, he and his wife donated a very large sum of money to the city of New Orleans, and in partnership with folks on the ground and other folks have put 100 families, American families who are New Orleans citizens, into homes in the Gentilly area who are there as we speak. On top of that, when he realized that they could not furnish their homes, he also created partnerships and furnished their homes for them. It is quite an amazing story that did not generate as much publicity as other events that have taken place since that time, but is probably one of the most miraculous stories post-Katrina that at least I'm personally aware of. We have stayed in touch with Mr. Riggio and his wonderful wife, Louise, and we have continued to work with Kerry, who has been with us as a loaned executive from Mr. Riggio, who's helping us rebuild the housing policy in the city of New Orleans. Just another amazing gift for us, and we thank him for that. And so we are here today to have the second chapter of this story written. And Mr. Riggio reached out to me and said, listen, I'm not finished. I want to do more. I want to help. I said, don't you think you've done enough? He said, no, I want to do more. And that is an amazing story. And so as you know, we have been reorganizing the Soft Second program. We have been reorganizing our NSP program. We have been reorganizing NORA. And one of the governing philosophies of this administration is that government doesn't have to row, government can steer. And if you facilitate, that is, you put people of like mind in the room together, if you link them, understand what their resources are, and you put them, the private sector, the not-for-profit, faith-based community, and the government together, and then you leverage them, you can create wonderful things. And so that is what we're here to do today. Mr. Riggio and his wife have agreed to help us build 100 more homes for middle-class, working-class families in the city of New Orleans. Again, the idea of building a place, of having mass, of them being in one particular area is of critical significance. Mr. Riggio chose the Gentilly area to begin with the first 100 homes, and that's where the second 100 homes is going to go to, because as we have said many, many times, we're not just building houses, we're building homes. And as Mr. Riggio will speak to, we're also building opportunities for generational wealth so that this can be with us for a very long period of time, because as you can see, we're building a city for the future, the city we always thought we should be. We're not rebuilding it back the way we were. And so what we are going to do now is enter into a new partnership. NORA is going to put up $1.2 million in NSP2 funds. We are also going to make this part of the Soft Seconds program, so there will be an investment of at least upwards of somewhere between $650,000 and $1 million. And Mr. Riggio and his team and Project Home Again are going to take care of the rest. And we are going to work very assiduously to make sure that we have the capacity for another 100 families, American citizens, New Orleans born, to have a place where they can anchor themselves and future generations to come to build wells and pathways to prosperity. This is on top of the resources that the city has already put in this area. Donnelly Playground, Digby Park, the Joseph Bartholomew Golf Course, which was an $8.8 million investment for the city. Harris Playground, Pontchartrain Park enhancements is a $3 million investment. Wesley Barrow, another $6.4 million investment. Nearby schools are in the process of being reconstructed. There are 11 schools that are going to surround this neighborhood. Everybody by now knows we got $1.2 billion from the federal government, and we're building 21st century schools that surround this, that will give the children that live in these areas the opportunity again to have another pathway to prosperity. So as you can see, we are creating the building blocks for future prosperity for a 21st century city that should last a very long period of time in its global context and in the most personal way that we can think of, because a house, if it's constructed the right way, in the right place, with the right inputs and output, can absolutely become a home and a stable foundation so that America can find her strength again. And as I've said many times, she will find her strength and beauty on the streets of New Orleans, as we have demonstrated many times in the last couple of years. So, Lana, on behalf of the people of the city, I want to thank you for what you have done and what you're going to do, and thank you for coming back and being our guardian angel.
Thanks so much.
God bless you. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor, for your kind comments. It's a real pleasure to partner with you in the second phase of our project. Your leadership and support have been nothing short of amazing. Your enthusiasm is infectious, and as many people in New Orleans and most of you have come to know, you are a difficult man to say no to. Thanks as well to Council Member Cynthia Hedge-Burrell. Cynthia has been, her support has been steadfast from day one. And a little story here, I'll never forget the first day I came here, and I met Cynthia, and she was kind of sizing me up to see in a way that only she can what were my intentions. And I think she said something like, and I'll paraphrase it, "We don't build cheesy homes here in Gentilly." And this is a working and middle-class community in which architecture and design have to be compatible with our communities and consistent with our high aspirations. Maybe she said something like, "Don't bring any of that New York stuff around here." But that's how I remember it. So point well taken, Cynthia. We've always existed on the same page. I have to thank Jeffrey Hebert and to all the good people at NORA. Your support has been instrumental in all our accomplishments and objectives to date. We look forward to working with you in the future. But finally, my heartfelt thanks to our unbelievably excellent project organization led by Project Director Carrie Shea, to the amazing OG Alexander. He doesn't just build the homes, he builds relationships with these people. He's there for them. Even 2 years after they moved in, just side by side with the families, to Erica Torriello. And this group of 3 individuals in a little trailer has managed to do the impossible in this or any other city, namely to accomplish a Herculean amount of work with little to no overhead and little cost. So because of that, we've been able to deliver many more homes to the families in need. It didn't get burned in overhead. It was put in on the ground. I also want to thank our builders, the Toubé family, our construction managers, Green Coast Enterprises, our architect, John Shake, for delivering high-quality homes at affordable prices. And thanks to you, these homes nestle so nicely within the community of Gentilly, they look like they've been there 100 years, which was our objective from day one. Mr. Mayor, as you well know, we, like you, do not let any grass grow underneath us. As a result, we've already begun construction on 30 of the 100 homes, and we hope to complete the project, this phase, with your help within the next 12 to 18 months. So hopefully the density of housing will create and inspire more building in the area. And in any case, inspire you and I to have further discussions. Just close by saying that, as always, our commitment to the city of New Orleans is resolute. We love this place. We love its people. We love its culture. We're pleased and honored to become part of the future. And finally, to the wonderful families who have received homes from Project Home Again, the gift of the first 100 homes, thank you for letting us into your lives. Thanks all.
Glenn, thank you very much.
Len, I think you paraphrased exactly what I told you when you came into my office. Just imagine, right after Katrina, the total devastation in District D, and sitting there trying to figure out what we could do to help families come back. And one of the biggest problems we had was the underinsurance and the lack of willingness on the part of the insurers to really work with people to get them back in their homes. And then this young man from New York is brought to my office. And what I remember about him was that he had a bravado about him, you know, and he's telling me what they're going to do. And there was never a doubt that he was going to do this. And his enthusiasm was contagious. And he says that he did 100 homes. I beg to correct you. You did 101 because a mutual friend introduced him to the New Orleans term land yap. So while he had agreed to do 100, he added one to it. And I know that family was indeed very excited to be added to the picture. And the other part that he kind of glosses over is that when the first homes on St. Bernard Avenue were constructed, Leonard and Louise took an interest not only in the construction, making sure it was LEED certified, making sure that the appliances were there, making sure that every nuance to welcome a family was there. And he walks in and he looks at the house and he says, "Oh, we can't bring them in here without furniture." And I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, maybe he's going to put a little kitchen set or something, you know, like on HGTV when they give the new homeowner a little gift. No, that's not what Len wanted to do. Len wanted to furnish the whole house. And that's what Len did. And he did it for all 101. And that's exciting. He took a simple concept. Give me the property that you can't repair, and I'll give you a new home. Simple. Everyone was trying to figure out, how do we do it? How do we bring them back? And Len just walked up and said, this is how you do it. And there was never a doubt. When we celebrated 101 homes, and I stood up to give my little thank you to him, the one thing I told him, my guardian angel sent Len to me. Because at the time he came into my office, I was probably hitting some low points, trying to figure out what to do to help all of the constituents of my area to come back. And the thing that really struck me was there's that song that says, did you ever know you were my hero? You were the wings, you're the wind beneath my wings. And so I told that to Len and his wife, and they said, oh, but I really mean it from the depths and the bottom of my heart, that simple caring to come down here to not expect anything, to not want any kind of big production over what he was doing, to look at areas where people were just they were just like not knowing what to do, and to step in and say, this is doable, this is how we're going to do it. Now you know why Barnes & Noble is so successful, because Len does not know what it means to be defeated. And he really actually did some wonderful things in Gentilly. But then he moved out to other areas. And these were areas that I was really getting worried about, because, you know, originally everybody said it was going to be a jack-o'-lantern. And I'm wondering, how are we going to not, after I've argued and begged that we not deny people their right to come back, how do we assure that we don't have the jack-o'-lantern effect? And I tell you, if you go into Burbank Gardens and some of the other places, you will know that Mr. Riggio put young families, returning families, and elderly back into homes. And I don't think anyone else who has come here has put the time, the effort, but put a team together, as he said. And think about what he said. He came in with an initial investment, and he said, we will do 100 homes. And these homes are phenomenal. And if you have not driven down St. Bernard Avenue to see Project Home again, and if you have not driven around Gentilly, and I think that Pontchartrain Park is a wonderful extension, but there are other areas, and I'm just not going to let him get away from New Orleans. But the other thing is that he throws a fantastic party. And that was the other thing. He fits in right fine with us. And he has some really nice friends that he brings along, like Tony Bennett. And we had a grand time celebrating. But here again, it wasn't a big who-you-know party. It was all the families that he had put in the homes. And we all celebrated that he did 101, and he brought his whole family down from New York. So I would say to you that if you want to see a genuine hero, Len and his wife, Louise.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Are we going to hear from Jeff Hebert from Nora, and then Brian Lawler, who's the Director of Housing, and then we're going to open it up to questions that Kerry can answer.
Just thank you to Mr. Riggio for his steadfastness in New Orleans. Gentilly is such an important neighborhood to bring back in New Orleans. Project Home, again, has been an excellent partner. We've worked with them for the past few years. They've received some of those lots that they switched out and have done an amazing job on a very tight timeline, have kept to the timeline, and is by far amongst our, I'd say, top two developers in the program. So I thank them very much for their partnership in getting what they've already gotten done, and look forward to the fast clip where we'll be working through our next phase of the project. Your team is incredible. I've known Carrie Shea for a long time. OG's great to work with, and I can't think of anybody better to work with on these projects. Our team has been working well and really has been setting up to move forward with those next houses. And as you said before, we're already under construction on some of them. We wanted to get out of the gate really quickly on that. So with that, you know, we are putting another $1.26 million into the project, and I know that it's going to be well utilized. As the mayor likes to say all the time, facilitate, link, and leverage. I think this is one of the best examples of facilitating, linking, and leveraging public funds with the philanthropic sector. So we're very happy to be a part of it. We will be moving forward very quickly with these remaining 100 houses, and look forward to continuing to work with Mr. Riggio.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you. It's really an honor to be here with Mr. Riggio, who really is a guardian angel, almost a Santa Claus to us in New Orleans, particularly not only the contributions that he's made to homes directly, but also loaning us Carrie Shea, who I've been the direct beneficiary of having the pleasure to work with, who's helping us, and everyone at the city, Jeff, the mayor, really get into our rebuilding efforts of rebuilding the city. These homes are important. The 101 have really made a difference. These 100 will make a difference, but we know the need is great. And we work hard every day to make sure that we make programs and assistance available to people. It's a wonderful time in New Orleans to be a first-time homebuyer. We have developed a great partnership with the state of Louisiana. We have our soft second program that we developed with Roz's help. We have our best and highest performer home buyer counselor out there, Fred Johnson, who gets people ready to be borrowers so that they can go to the banks that we work with to develop first mortgages for first-time home buyers. We're now making a new first-time home buyer every day here on average, and continue on. We have a lot of money. It won't last forever, so I encourage people all across the city who are ready to become home buyers, talk to Fred about how to get through the process and come see us. And again, Mr. Riggio, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Before I open up to questions, I just want to put an exclamation point on this fact. Last night, President Obama and Governor Romney debated. Most of that debate, as is this presidential campaign, is about how to lay a foundation for the middle class in America. You've heard me say many times that the city of New Orleans is this nation's most immediate laboratory for innovation and change. So how ironic is it that we're here today talking about an innovation that is part of the government, the private sector, not-for-profits, and the philanthropy of a wonderful individual giving to working class, middle class Americans the opportunity that's readily available to them in a short period of time to realize, in fact, the American dream. And so to the people of New Orleans, once again, your city has, in a very short period of time, in response to the most catastrophic thing that can happen to a community, exercised great will and resilience that's being reflected all over the nation, but also we are reflecting in the partnerships that we are creating a way to show America how to find her strength again, and it's actually being found on the streets of New Orleans in a way that is as prominent as every one of the talking points in the debates in this presidential campaign. And this is the best national example of what it looks like to give middle-class Americans the things they need, not only to realize the American dream, but to build family wealth, to build future generations, and to actually help recreate a great American city. And so this is a really very, very important day, not just for us, and especially, but in my opinion, for the country as well. So again, Len, thank you so much for everything that you have done. And we're now going to make available the experts to explain to all of our assiduous reporters. I know you're going to ask really hard questions, the specifics. Right, John? Because you're always going to go first. And you are the senior member in the room. Thank you. So you're welcome. Senior member always goes first. Go ahead.
Two housekeeping questions.
Sure.
Do these houses go among the area along St. Bernard Avenue, where the first house is going to move into new territory? And what is the biggest home building program since Katrina?
I'm going to answer that generally. Then I'm going to ask Carrie to answer it specifically. Before everybody in the city gets all up in arms about why did we pick Gentilly as opposed to Lakeview or the Lower Nine or the East or Uptown, it's because when Mr. Riggio came into town, he wanted to make sure that a particular area could create, that he could help create density, and they picked Gentilly. And that is why we are going to continue to anchor the Gentilly area of the city with this particular project. That is why it's gone in that general area. Density is a really important part of it. As the council lady said early on, the jack-o'-lantern effect was one of the things that we were all very, very concerned about. And so I think very wisely, Mr. Riggio said, we want to make sure we concentrate a lot of our building in one particular area of the city. Having said that, Gentilly's fairly large, and so I want Carrie and Jeff and Brian to talk to you about how we're going to choose which and where to go. Carrie?
Yeah. We will be sprinkling our houses across mainly northern Gentilly. It's an area that, while served by a couple organizations, when we first started working there and forming relationships and setting our strategies, we were the only, player, nonprofit housing developer working there. So we work well there. We have terrific relationships with the neighborhood associations. They've helped guide a lot of our work, and we're going to stay there for a while.
Let me just add something to that. The mayor was one of the first, I'm a Democrat, but one of the first Democrats I've heard of late utter the words working class. And I think that some time ago, to my dismay, the party gave in to the idea that the middle class was where the votes were and maybe where the money was. And we picked Gentilly largely because it was a working class community, and we thought that the working class people were the fabric, the backbone, and in fact the culture of the city. And it had those characteristics that we were seeking. It also had characteristics of there was some density. There were some houses up. It had kind of the architectural density that we were characteristics that we were looking for.
So, Yes. If I could just pick your brain for a moment. Had you been to New Orleans before? Have you spent a lot of time here? What is your experience here?
Yeah, I mean, I start out loving jazz. I love good food, and I love good people that love to party. So as a young person, I did party here. Not all that often. My wife, as it turns out, in fact, I didn't know this until after we started the project. Her grandfather actually migrated from Italy to New Orleans. So we do kind of have some family roots here. But I've always loved the place. There's just something magical about it, and the magic has always been the people. So that's how.
Affection for New Orleans.
Yes.
For many years.
Yes.
So then, can you sort of talk us through or describe what it is like for you to put people back into their homes?
It's impossible to put into words because I would cry. You know, we just have pictures. I can't go into it. It's just one of the best things that's ever happened in our lives. Yeah. Yeah. Try not to.
Final question, Mr. Riggio. How can we get on your VIP list?
Gotta work. You gotta come plant some trees.
After the second of 200 homes, are we done here?
Well, I'm never done. I don't know what happens after that. I will tell you that when we came here and I met the previous mayor, my goal was to put 100 homes up within 2 years of the hurricane. And believe it or not, I couldn't get any land. And I did ask the mayor for help, and I didn't get any help. And I was saying I couldn't quite believe that, you know, with all this devastation, that, you know, I wanted land in one place so that you could build, have density. And we begged and we begged, and we couldn't get land. And finally, in frustration, I told our project manager at the time to go to a real estate broker and actually go and buy a shopping center or something and upzone it so that we could get some land. We had no cooperation from the city at that time until we met Congressperson Morrell.
Oh, you promoted me.
And we had Councilwoman.
That's all right. I missed it.
So we just had a hard time, and it took 3 years. It took 3 years from the moment of our intent to actually get anything going. So the answer to the question is, I have some frustration here, because had we put the 100 homes up at the time I wanted to do it, I think we could have caused a snowball effect and had begun to use some of the money, the philanthropic and government money that was available and ultimately got wasted. We could have used that money much more effectively, because our whole program was about building efficiently with no excess, with no overhead, and no shenanigans. And we thought we'd be able to really go much bigger than we did, much faster. So at this point, I'm happy to be back for the second phase, and you never know.
You talked about building density, and certainly the development on St. Bernard, Project Home Again, did that. You built essentially a neighborhood. In this phase, are you going to be able to do that, or is this going to be scattershot sites throughout a geographic area?
Yeah, what's available mostly through, well, first of all, we're very committed to building on lots provided by Nora. We want to get these lots back into commerce. Most of the lots that they have available are not contiguous lots. Whenever possible, we get a few. But we also seek to do somewhat of a, we like our houses to be a catalyst. So what we found is if on a street where there are maybe 10 vacant properties, if we put 5 houses on that street, it gives enough momentum to the street and enough kind of encouragement to the other people on the street to develop lots. We also occasionally will take a double lot and build a single house on it, sometimes for a disabled person, so we have room for a ramp. So we're trying to be really creative and see where our investment can be greater than the sum of its parts, and where we can really kind of spur development. And Nora's been a terrific partner. We've used, in our first round, over 80 Nora properties, and then in this round, our LLT properties, and in this round we'll use at least another 100.
So
Was it Burbank Garden?
Let me just add
That you
something
did
to
that.
that. The answer, it will not be scattershot. These will be strategically located.
Right.
They may not necessarily be contiguous, but we're going to use the ability that we have to direct the locations because we are building a place. We're not just building homes, we're building a neighborhood, and we can use whatever authority we have to make sure that they're strategically located. That's what we're going to try to do.
So would that mean if you've got a street that's got 10 houses on it, it's got 2 vacant lots, would that be strategic putting houses there, or would it be more strategic where you've got 2 houses and 10 vacant lots to build there?
Well, at least that's a question that we can consider and make a decision on based on what the long-term strategy is, as opposed to just giving somebody a grant and say, go build wherever you want. This is not a you use the term scattershot.
Right.
That connotes, you can go do whatever you want. This is not a do whatever you want program. This is we're rebuilding northern Gentilly, and we're trying to find density. It may be in some instances, for example, that if you had, for example, 10 other individuals that were going to build on those 10 lots, you say, we're going to go fill in that block. In another instance, you may say, we're going to do the 2 on this, but it's going to be strategic and thoughtful, and in some way loosely designed in partnership with the individuals that are going to be participating in the program. That's a fair
Yeah,
answer.
absolutely.
Was there a model for these homes? You said they weren't the quote-unquote cheesy or New York look or whatever. Did he have a formula to go by on this?
Doesn't look like New York to me.
We spent a lot of time working with community members, with the councilwoman who brought me into her office a couple times to facilitate meetings. So this came out of that. Those various processes, very grassroots in the neighborhood, with Green Coast Enterprises engaged. So a lot of thought.
I would just let me add, before Carrie came aboard, we had some problems connecting. And we did hire an architect that, as it turns out, was quite fanciful, and spent a lot of time doing a lot of work for nothing, and not for nothing for a lot of money. And we wound up with some designs, and we were saying, this doesn't look anything like New Orleans. Why are you doing all this? And it turns out that the architect was doing it in order to pad their own reputation for bringing New Orleans into the new. And I thought the old New Orleans was pretty damn good, so we let her go, and then let them go, excuse me. And we eventually connected to an architect that was sensitive to what we were looking for and very, very sensitive to the city and to the community.
Thanks. And Danny and John, then we gotta go.
Is this the biggest home building project post-Katrina in New Orleans?
I don't do accounting.
I would say the largest single developer, successful developer in the city.
Yes,
What timeline are we looking at?
right now.
Well, me tomorrow morning, I said to someone earlier that I once built 400 stores in a year. So I kind of know and have, you know, an appetite for moving quickly. I'd like to get this done in the next 12 to 18 months. Part of the process is, remember that we're building these homes for families in need and for families who have a certain level of income. These families have to be identified, and then they have to qualify for the city's soft second mortgage program. So this is going to take some time, but as far as putting the homes up, I mean, we could be done in less than 9 months if we had to. And we are going to add some new wrinkles to the architecture so that the whole neighborhood will not look exactly the same. So the first 30 will be similar to the ones we built before with some, and now we're going to add some wrinkles to give them a little different flavor.
And what's the amount you're putting into it? I think the city's putting in 1.2 million.
I don't know how much we'll be putting in on this phase. We had previously paid for the first phase, paid 100% of that. You should also know that the furniture that Cynthia spoke about, we didn't provide the furniture. We actually allowed the families to select their own because we thought it was very important for the homeowner to have the dignity of their own selection. And so we just gave them a list of suppliers, and they were allowed to pick what they chose. So every house is different.
It'll be the same thing this time.
Yes, we are going to provide the furnishings, and we're providing the obvious expertise, organization, overhead, laying out the money, and essentially selling the homes below cost. The last homes were given away.
All right, thank you all very much.